A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to his disciples, "The kingdom of heaven is like a landowner going out at daybreak to hire workers for his vineyard. He made an agreement with the workers for 1 denarius a day and sent them into his vineyard. Going out at about the 3rd hour, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace and said to them, 'You go to my vineyard too, and I will give you a fair wage.' So they went. At about the 6th hour, and again at about the 9th hour, he went out and did the same. Then about the 11th hour, he went out and found more men standing round, and he said to them, 'Why have you been standing here idle all day?' 'Because no one has hired us,' they answered. He said to them, 'You go into my vineyard too.' In the evening, the owner of the vineyard said to his bailiff, 'Call the workers and pay them their wages, starting with the last arrivals and ending with the first.' So those who were hired at about the 11th hour came forward and received 1 denarius each. When the first came, they expected to get more, but they too received 1 denarius each. They took it, but grumbled at the landowner. 'The men who came last,' they said, 'have only done 1 hour, and you have treated them the same as us, though we have done a heavy day's work in all the heat.' He answered one of them and said, 'My friend, I am not being unjust to you. Did we not agree on 1 denarius? Take your earnings and go. I choose to pay the last comer as much as I pay you. Have I no right to do what I like with my own? Why be envious because I am generous? Thus the first will be last, and the last first.'" The Gospel of the Lord. Why be envious because I am generous? This is the time of year when we usually thank God for his generosity in creation, particularly if we enjoyed a good harvest of fruit or vegetables in our gardens or fields. Building on this centuries-old tradition of harvest thanksgiving, the Catholic Church, in conjunction with a number of other Christian denominations, has recently adopted September as a season of creation. As this is a focus for our parish throughout this year with the Live Simply Challenge, I thought I would share some thoughts on this topic for the remaining Sundays of this season. If you are hoping for some reflections on the Gospel parable, then please see the front page of the newsletter, which is available physically in church or digitally on the parish website. 5 years ago, Pope Francis issued an encyclical letter entitled Laudato Si, or Praise Be to You. This is title taken from the words of St. Francis of Assisi, a saint who was able to express his appreciation for all aspects of God's creation. It's quite a long document, 180 pages, and I don't propose to try and summarise it all, but I will try and capture some of the main points that Pope Francis makes, drawing from already established church teaching, including the teaching of his immediate predecessors as Pope. Firstly, something about the word creation. It comes naturally to us as Christians, but it is not necessarily a word that is used by others who might prefer to talk about nature or ecology or similar words. However, for us as Christians, to speak of creation means that we acknowledge that we have a creator, and this awareness must shape the way in which we relate to creation. We are familiar with the account of creation in the Bible, in chapters 1, 2, and 3 of Genesis. Initially, everything was harmonious, but after the fall, Adam is told that he will have to work hard to obtain his food from the soil. Incidentally, it was only after the flood that God gave Noah permission to eat the flesh of animals. St. Paul, in his letter to the Romans, tells us that through our human reason, we can know the presence of the Creator in creation. But he also speaks of creation groaning as it awaits its ultimate fulfillment. In his letter, Pope Francis picks up this theme of creation groaning and talks about the earth crying out because of the harm that we as humans have inflicted on her. As some of you will know, before becoming a priest, I studied civil engineering at university. One of the oldest definitions of civil engineering is the art of directing the great sources of power in nature for the use and convenience of man. Certainly over the centuries, humans have made great progress, so much so that many of us are spared the necessity to work hard with our hands for the food that we eat. But there is a balance to be found between using the earth responsibly and exploiting and abusing it in an irresponsible way. It's also important to note that the people who suffer most when the earth is used in an irresponsible way are those who are the poorest. Towards the end of his letter, the Pope speaks of both simple gestures that individuals can make and also the necessity for societal change through civic and political activity. Not everyone is called to get involved in civic and political activity, although we should inform ourselves the best we can. However, all of us can do small things with love. The monthly and quarterly Live Simply Challenge activities are those kind of little things, and I'm sure there is something on those lists that we could try to do. Pope Francis suggests something even simpler, to remember to give thanks to God before each and after every meal. And I quote, "That moment of blessing, however brief, reminds us of our dependence on God for life. It strengthens our feelings of gratitude for the gifts of creation. It acknowledges those who by their labours provide us with these goods, and it reaffirms our solidarity with those in greatest need." If we have got out of the custom of doing this, or perhaps never experienced this or developed this custom before, then this is one simple and practical action we can take to acknowledge the generosity of God, of which today's scripture readings speak so eloquently of.